Hello, everyone. My name is Moshe Nave from the SAP Community team. Welcome to our SAP Community call. Today we have Lans Felipe, SAP Technology Ambassador and Engagement Manager in SAP. Luis will talk to us about keeping your code secure, security and compliance. Um, in case you have a question, you can see you have a Q&A interface. So just whenever, just enter your question there. If you wish to speak, you have an option to raise your hand via the application. I'll see it and I'll wait for opportunity to let you speak. So now that we are done with the logistics, Luis, please take it away.
Thank you, Mosh. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for the people who's connected from India and Asia Pacific area. My name is Luis Lans, as mentioned by Moshe. I'm an SAP Technology Ambassador, as well as MaxAttention Engagement Manager within SAP. The idea of this presentation and this webinar is to give you some guidelines about some topics that are rising into every single customer and must be taken into account when you are doing some coding and extensions of SAP software. And what is why we take this important? First of all, we need to set a disclaimer. That means the information is intellectual property and SAP, so subject to legal area. So we get into some topics. First, what is necessary? Why is necessary to take care about security at SAP? And what about the compliance challenges? We have a new legislation in the European Union, in China, and moreover in California, coming some projects on different parliaments in across the United States and different federal states, as well as Canada. Some countries, Latin America, also have some compliance challenge. But we are also in the age of machine learning. So let's talk about that topic, and then I will go some details about security by default and give you some additional points when you can find information about SAP and security coding and compliance. First, I want to refer to this article. It was published in January, so it was quite half a year ago. But in the Alliance Risk Barometer, say the cyber business interruption comes at very important topics on the market. So, what is the big point? I remember some days ago, I read also an article about the investment that armed forces in different countries are using on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a risk, is there to be taken care, and definitely what we need to do is not only doing best code we can do as developers, but also taking into consideration that there is a big organizations and big people outside willing to find a flaw in your security in order to capture customer data. And we have a security failure, and this will have different topics. The first, definitely, we will have this become public negative publicity. We have brand image. We have a loss of revenue. We can have legal consequences, and we're talking about this later, and we will definitely expose some penalties. I have a website that I would like to share with you as well. And this is currently this is a live website, and on this live website, say the different hack and data breach we had in the last 2 years. You can see Chinese resume big Firebase topic on Google, and that are quite interesting. Another topic I want to show you and tell you why is so important, and you'll see in a minute. And this is quite interesting. Just so, and it was quite interesting, as security labs exposed in Chinese smart city surveillance system. So if you go to TenScroll, you will see this information. I will put it into the areas in just a couple of minutes. But one of the key topic is you see that nobody is safe outside. So February 2019, Armor Games also got 11 million details online topics, coffee makers, bagel. So there is no, it's like a sickness. They have no situation or areas in the different industry sectors that are safe for being compromised on this topic. SAP have the Intelligence Enterprise Framework, and in the Intelligence Enterprise Framework, we have different suites that are working on all the topics. So we have our ERP, we have the customer experience, we have a digital supply chain, we have the core people engagement with success factors, network management spend, we have SAP Concur, we have SAP Ariba, we have the Field Glass, we have a lot of intelligence suites. They are also connect with internet technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, analytics. What is really important, as mentioned, I will show you in a minute or at the end of the presentation, this Chinese topic, because it's IoT on the smart cities, and I was just exposed it a couple of days ago, that we need to have three panels or three key components, because compliance is indispensable and security is an essential part of it. You cannot have a security, this kind of intelligent framework without the security. So we need to take care of intelligence suite, we need to take care of digital platform, and we need to take care of intelligent technologies. Saying that, we need to go to the first big topics we are talking about, the compliance challenge. The compliance challenge is what we are in the middle of a story in Europe. The U.S. Deputy Attorney General Paul McNeely said, "If you think compliance is expensive, try not compliance." What it really is compliant in Europe, and this is also projectable for China, for Russia, for other countries. They have their own regulation, but the most impacted one is GDPR. GDPR is European Union General Data Protection Regulation, and it's quite interesting because it became effective on May 25th last year. Of today, we have several companies still work on this topic. Several e-commerce companies hosted and operated in the United States. They are blocking the access to European Union citizens because they are not compliant. And moreover, one of these important topics is what is really the penalties. You are talking about 4% of the company annual revenue or 20 million euros as a minimum fee. Uh, what is a bigger one we will take? I was talking with a customer a couple of days ago. We talked about the general turnover last year was quite huge, and the expulsion to the risk to get a 4% was around 400 million euros. You can imagine that is absolutely a very big risk, but in fact, it's not a penalty. What we are avoiding here is to keep the personal and sensitive information protected as the law mandate. That means we are not willing to continue working in a traditional way that say, okay, you have roles authentication and that's it, and you get the information you need. Now we need to be more specific. We need to get the consent from the people in order to process the information and need to go ahead. And what we do this, first we need to, and this applies for all of the regulation, not only GDPR, but it's important we take this as an example. We need to be sure data protection is simple. No complex issue behind it. You know what to do and you have to apply it. And this is where things get hard. So processing of data, personal data is forbidden. There is no doubt about it. You cannot process personal data. You need to do some tests to avoid this. So long as not justified reason given such a contract, legal reasons or data subject are given information or ambiguous consent, you cannot process the data, the personal data. The life cycle of data in every single application is first you have created contract, a payment delivery, and you have end of business or a set of data resident. You need to be also aware there is a data reporting obligations that force you to store information for your transaction for a period of years. You in the initial area, you have processing the information. You get the the information provided by their customer for the end users. You process it. You finish your purchase order. We'll put it in that way, and then you need to have the information block. And after the period of retention, that is the legal obligation, you have to delete the information. So the requirement itself is a personal data is no longer needed for the primary processing purpose. Must be deleted unless there is a retention period defined by law and contract. In that case, it need to be blocked. And after that period, you need to be sure that this information is deleted and not reachable. So this is a description about the processing cases. So you have the processing according to the intended purpose. For example, you get a person's that ordering goods or ordering the food in supermarket, and you get this data about the name, address, credit card, etc. And to fulfill the contract, you obtain a payment. You send this information about the people need to do the delivery of the goods. And once is the process complete, you block this data. That means no one will be able to come into your computer or browser and say, okay, let me see if this guy ordered something in the last 2 months. Once you finish the initial intent of the data utilization, you need to block that. And only a person authorized by the data protection officer will have access to information. So you do a blocking period, and once you finish that period, that could be a legal, contractual, statutory retention, you block this information. You don't delete it because some authorities can come to you and ask for it. And after that period, you go to deletion of the personal data. For that deletion of personal data, we recommend, but it's not mandatory, it's up to you, but we recommend the use of SAP Information Lifecycle Management, ILM, which can have simplified the process in a considerable manner. Okay. So technical evaluation about the blocking and equation. So the first is you have personal data, yes or no. If it's no, nothing else to do. If it's yes, you have used according with intended purpose. So I give the information to you, I give my address in order you send me my food, right? That I ordered in the supermarket. If I did that, what finishes the process still allowed because you didn't end this purpose. So you continue working. If not, you have to get into retention period, and then you check if there's other retention period. You go to block the data. If not, just delete the data. So blocking and deletion using IAM interfaces is very easy. So you have an EOP application. You go to the SAP ILM. You go, for example, the PA, as it means the payroll application, and you get some temporary archive files. You have blocking in the case of master data, and you can go via archive file or deletion. That when you delete this temporary archive file or destruction the data object. So as you can see, it's very simple, and ILM simplified the way. Does that mean you need to have SAP ILM? No, but you need to consider a tool or a mechanism or a process to do the same topic as mandatory by law. Archiving an object, data restriction object, and is part of your object. So you have the transaction server, you can archive the object. You have an ILM object, you have the policies, the rule, transaction like IRM pool, IRM NARA, And you have the SW1 when you can do the destruction and on the data with the transaction island destruction. The next topic I want to mention is we know already the different process, right? So processing, blocking, and deletion. But what about machine learning? Machine learning is present, is there, is here to stay here, and it gives you some worries about privacy and compliance. The worries that come with machine learning is very simple. If I am using the information and I apply machine learning to that information, machine learning can learn from that personal information, and it can increase the way how the algorithms works and respond to different areas and comments by processing personal information. So we are here in a dilemma about, okay, if I use machine learning, how can I become compliance under privacy? So this is very simple. The threat is machine learning models remember the training data fairly, so will be more confident by seeing them again when it's deployed. The mitigation that we are giving to this threat is anonymization. When you do anonymization, you take the information for the process that do not contain private information or private data, and then the machine learning will learn with the anonymized data about how to work with the different patterns and information. But it's safe because the machine learning algorithm will not take the information from the personal data. So an example, you have first a machine training data set, you get a machine learning, and this is what normally we do things on developers doing, that we take the information on train data set, we train the model, we optimize the model, we get enough information to the model, and then we activate it. And the adversary here will just go to the same data set and then do a prediction. That means they can use even machine learning model to do a prediction and be able to do reverse engineering. The possible mitigation strategy that we are providing, we're recommending to machine learning models when you are handle private data is simple. You do take the dataset training and you do HANA anonymization, which is the Bailman HANA 2.0. You create a dataset with anonymized data, and then you apply the data models. It means when the machine learners get the information, it is already anonymized, and in that way you are able to work. So this couple of tables here will give you the chance that you take some data and you simply anonymize, that means, and the information about location, weight, and illness. For example, in this case, that is a very sensitive data on healthcare. Um, be safe. So the machine learning can work in the same different area and is absolutely getting on the topic. Okay. What is the next topic which we want to talk is security by default. Security by default is how we will protect our code. So we are in the era of S/4HANA. And one of the premises we are doing in S/4HANA is to keep our core clean. It means that you core the S/4HANA clean, and you do extension of this software using different elements like APIs or cloud platform. And that way will increase the maintenance life cycle and keep the system as clean as possible. But it brings another topic, that is you are exposing a different way of communication. API is the preferred way how to communicate, interact with other systems. So at the moment you have mobile devices, web applications, on devices like smart watches or an Apple TV or a Hue bridge that will help you to your in-house smart home. And you have some APIs that will give information to cloud services, system, and database. You unlock enterprise data by consuming this information, but also you expose the data via API. So security is the most important aspect of developing enterprise APIs. At the moment, what we recommend is to use a schema supported by SAP API Management. So you identify the color, and when you identify the color by API Management or through the application, you go to the API itself. The way how you can identify and give the support is in different ways, like API key, basic authentication that I will recommend to use also two-factor authentication or a Kerberos key, so you can have a physical key to access this information. You have SML to the zero, OAuth to the zero, certificate, or even JavaScript for custom authentication that will help you to really identify who are you, why are you getting, and through which application you get it. So the API management will give you the chance to be a layer of protection to get access to enterprise APIs. And what cyber attacks we are getting in this moment and impacting API? And the common cyber attacks we are getting is injection attack, in particular SQL injection. We have also a new one that is into the DNS. That is absolutely important. You do take also in consideration XML and JSON bombs and the DDoS, denial of service. So this information will destroy, expose, alter, disable, steal, or gain unauthorized access to use an asset into your system, and it goes directly attacking API. So this is what you have to consider on it. To mitigate the attack, as mentioned, we have also API security policies. And as you see in this slide, we have a bunch of, we have access control. You can get spike arrest, you have quota, you have JSON threat protection, XML threat protection, regex validation, XML schema validation. That means everyone can manipulate an XML and send you a bomb, as well as JSON threat protection, concurrent rate limit, and definitely JavaScript for it. But this is only on the APIs side. When we are moving outside API and coming to our SAP traditional world moment, and we have some topics that need to apply as well. First, we need to do, and you need to consider to have in your quality gates dynamic application security testing. You will run some scripts and you will run some application that will help you to do penetration testing on vulnerability scanning. For that, we have some tools that will help you to make that. Doesn't means you have to use it, but we strongly recommend for ABAP you use an add-on that is on code vulnerability analysis, CVA. The CVA can be integrated also into ATB, ABAP Task Pick. That is definitely the tool we recommend in better on-solution manner or as a network application server separated to do a code scan and to check the quality of your code. Once you do that, you can also elevate the usage of this tool by adding the CVA. In the case of ABAP, and if you are programming in ABAP, you can use Microsoft Fortify Software Security Center, and that integrate also with CVA and give you an automated source. So the idea of this slide is very simple, guys. You are very good at what you're doing, but definitely you need to add a layer of security because you will expose your code, you will be subject to attacks. And with this, you reduce the risk that your code be the reason why the system becomes vulnerable. What are the checks you need to do? The checks you need to do are very simple. And this applies, for example, in different areas, but especially into the SAP development. So you are developing, you search for web exploitability, SQL injection, OpenSQL, SQL injection in ADBC, code injection in ABAP, call injection in a normal function call, OS command injection, directory traversal, and backdoors and authorizations. So you need to have a checklist and those all topics using the appropriate tools to do automatic and manual penetration tests and definitely validate that the code you are providing, no matter if it's just a modification of a user exit, or if you are creating a full program with a full integration, all data, etc., you need to check all these topics in order to ensure that you took all the measures necessary to avoid being attacked or to avoid to expose vulnerability through your code. This is a topic that become now a part of your responsibility as developer. Though that means you, if you do all these checks, you are 100% safe. No, if someone tells you that, don't believe it. Um, the cyber threat are there and they are using a lot of research and investigation as well as we are doing to protect. So it's going every day increasing all the topics where they found vulnerabilities. They get vulnerability in several topics and what we have to do is try to minimize and close as much doors as we can to avoid that. So our recommendations we give is always have security management development software. So it's the best practice to build good software in the first place. Repair later is far more expensive, and as you mentioned at the beginning, try to not be compliant, so try to not be secure. You will probably detect when that your software is not secure too late. So it means after an attack. So you don't want to put insecure software into productive use. Nobody wants to do that. Use a static code analyzer. Use every time you change your code. It's not that you change some topics and you recompile, or you say the topic you transport and you check it only once. Check it every time you check the code. It need to be uh, very good practice for you. You have to move sanitation as close as possible to the critical statement. So all critical statement and the sanitation often depend on the deployed technology. You need to have automatically when the code is reused. Don't forget dynamic security tests. That is absolutely a topic. So you don't rely on only one security check. Is when you're doing a pre-flight check, and the pilot also need to be validated by a co-pilot in a plane. So it is in that way you need to go ahead. Train your developers, and it's important you have train your developers in security. You hand over this information to them, and you also be ensure that everyone in your development team is following security recommendations. Some place to work kind of found additional information. You have different blogs. You have a blog from our former Vice President, Daniel Shines. It's nice that he get data anonymization, and you can find this on the community blogs. You have the SAP HANA Academy tutorial videos. You have K-anonymity, you have differential privacy, data anonymization, and record anonymizations, including GDPR audits. You have community blogs as well, and you have Tim Hardy working on trusted data, and Chris Hallenberg, data security matter. And definitely you have a couple of complementary websites like HANA Security or SAP.com Security. On compliance, you have sap.com/GDPR and HANA Express, where you can download the HANA trial version and get started with your data anonymization directly in your PC or Mac. There is a book about GDPR and SAP GDPR. It's important that if you work with customers and European users, you have to read this information, and I would recommend to use this book. And by saying that, I'm finishing it and open for any Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Luis. So let's ask the crowd if they have any questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. in the attendees list or in your application interface. Okay, great. So it seems that we don't have questions. So I would like to thank Luis for this great session.
Thank you very much.
And we'll post the recording in the SAP Community Calls page. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.